I stared at the message on my phone, a small, bitter smile curling on my lips even though the situation was anything but funny. Flying to Rome with my lover, have fun being poor, that was James's final message to me, short, cruel, and smug. If only he knew what was really happening. My name is Natalie, I'm 29 years old, and today, I found myself parked outside JFK Airport, watching a live security feed on my laptop as my husband unknowingly walked into a trap I helped set. It was strange how life could twist in such unexpected ways. Just a year ago, I was happily married, or so I thought, working alongside James at Morton & Blake Investment Group. We were the power couple in the finance department, always dressed sharp, always arriving together at meetings. People looked up to us, I looked up to him. But now, here I was, working with an FBI task force, helping them catch the man I once loved. James thought he was clever. He thought he had drained all of our accounts to fund his secret escape to Europe with his so-called mistress. What he didn't know was that those accounts weren't real, they were traps we'd set up weeks earlier once I started to suspect him. As Senior Vice President of Finance, James had access to a lot of money, too much. Over time, he began moving client funds, little by little, hiding the transactions behind fake companies and offshore accounts. On paper, it looked clean, but to a trained someone like me, it was suspicious. At first, I didn't want to believe it, but the signs kept piling up. He was working late too often, whispering on phone calls in the middle of the night, and becoming overly interested in our home's security system. That last part especially didn't sit right with me. Why would he need to add new cameras and sensors in just his office? So I started digging. I worked quietly, downloading files, tracing money movements, taking screenshots, and saving everything. Once I had enough, I went straight to the FBI. That's when I met Agent Catherine Torres. She was sharp, calm, and knew exactly how to build a case without tipping James off. To him, she was just Amanda, the beautiful new client looking to invest millions. James, of course, took the bait. He always loved attention. Target is approaching the security checkpoint, Torres's voice said through my earpiece. He's with the female operative now. I watched the screen as James strutted through the terminal, acting like he owned the place. He had his arm around Amanda, smiling like he'd already won. He didn't know that she was an undercover agent or that a dozen more officers were quietly surrounding the terminal. I leaned back in my seat, watching, waiting. It felt surreal. 6 months ago, James sat across from me at dinner, asking me to combine all our bank accounts. He made it sound romantic, like a true partnership move. He said, "Let's build our future together." Back then, I believed him. But now I knew the truth. He just wanted control, and he almost got it. My phone buzzed again, another message from James, along with a photo of him and Amanda at a champagne bar inside the terminal. He wrote, "Thanks for making this so easy. By the way, I took a little extra from your personal emergency fund. Consider it payment for 5 years of pretending to love you." Those words stung more than I expected, even though I knew he was a liar and a thief. Reading that message, knowing how easily he tossed our life away, made my chest ache. I remembered how we first met. We were both new hires at Morton & Blake, staying late for training, sharing noodles from a paper box. He used to bring me tea when I was sick. He held me when my father died. Were those moments real, or just part of the act? Target looks anxious. Torres's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. He's checked his watch 3 times in the last minute. I looked back at the screen. James was clearly nervous. He kept checking his phone, probably wondering why his flight hadn't boarded yet. That's when I saw something that stopped me cold. He was carrying my father's old leather briefcase, the one I'd inherited after Dad passed. James knew it meant a lot to me, and now, he was using it to carry stolen documents and a backup hard drive filled with evidence. He really had no shame. "Agent Torres," I said into my mic, "the briefcase, that's where the backup drive is. My father used to say it was the safest place for anything important." James must have thought the same. "Copy that," she replied. "We'll retrieve it." On the screen, I saw Amanda gently guide James toward a nearby gate, stalling just enough to let airport security catch up. We had also frozen the fake accounts he thought were real, so his money was gone, and we had delayed his flight, too, just long enough to let everything fall into place. I sent James one last text: "Maybe you should talk to the police officer behind you first." I watched his reaction on the camera. His smile vanished. Panic took over. He spun around quickly, but there was no one behind him, yet, his fear said everything. "All units ready," came Agent Torres's voice. "He's heading toward the exit. We've got him." Then my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "You think you've won?" It was James. His voice was cold and calm. "I've got copies of every transaction you signed off on. If I go down, so do you." I froze for a second. He was bluffing. He had to be. I'd been careful. I'd made sure every document was accounted for, but still, there was something in his tone, like he was certain. "Is that so?" I replied. "Then I hope you already told Amanda about them." There was silence on the other end. I watched the feed as he glanced at Amanda beside him. "What does she have to do with this?" he asked. I let out a slow breath, my smile returning. "Everything." The color drained from his face. He finally realized. The woman he thought he was running away with was the one helping bring him down. And it was already too late. I sat in my car outside the airport, holding the phone to my ear. My heart was racing, and my hands were shaking slightly. On the screen inside the terminal, I saw James suddenly take a step away from the woman beside him. His face changed. He finally understood. But it was too late. In one quick move, she twisted his arm behind his back. James winced in pain as the woman, Agent Amanda Torres, who had been undercover this whole time, spoke loudly so that everyone around could hear. "James Anderson, you're under arrest for embezzlement and corporate fraud." More agents appeared from different corners of the terminal, surrounding him as people nearby turned to look. Some pulled out their phones, some just watched in shock. I should have felt relieved. After all, this was what I had worked for, what I had planned with the FBI. But instead, I felt a strange mix of sadness and fear, because then, James started laughing. Still on the phone with me, he spoke calmly, as if he wasn't in handcuffs. "Oh, Natalie," he said, using the nickname he always used when he wanted to sound charming or condescending. "You really think this is over? Check your email. I just sent you something interesting." Then he hung up. For a moment, I didn't move. My palms were sweaty, my throat felt dry. Slowly, I opened my email. There it was. A new folder with the subject line, "Thomas Bennett, Project Files." My father's name. I hesitated, but then clicked it open. My eyes scanned the documents, one after another. Old emails, financial records, charts, and reports. All of it went back about 15 years, back to when my father was chief financial officer at Morton & Blake. At first, I didn't understand. Then I saw it. The same method James had used to steal money, the same offshore accounts, the same shell companies, was all there, but in older documents, my father had done it first. Or so it looked. I felt dizzy, my hands were trembling, the world felt like it tilted under my feet. Could it be true? Had my father, the man who always talked about honesty and doing the right thing, been part of something so terrible? Agent Torres's voice came through my earpiece, pulling me back to reality. "We've got him secured, but he's asking for his lawyer." I could barely speak. I whispered, "James knew. He knew about my father. That's why he married me. That's why he pushed so hard to get into Morton & Blake. He used me." I looked back at the security feed. James was smiling as they led him away. That smug, confident look on his face said one thing loud and clear: he planned this. Agent Torres frowned. "What exactly did he send you?" I forwarded her the folder. Then I said what I had just realized. "James didn't come up with this scheme. He copied it. My father created it first." A heavy silence filled the line. I stared at the screen again. My chest was tight. My thoughts were racing. I remembered every kind word my father ever told me about being honest. Every time he helped someone at work. Every time he looked disappointed when someone betrayed his trust. Could it all have been a lie? Then my phone buzzed again. A text message from a blocked number. "I've got more files, much more. Drop the charges, or everything about Thomas Bennett goes public. Your choice, darling." I felt like I might throw up. James had planned this down to the last detail. If this got out, it wouldn't just ruin my father's name, it would damage the company, the employees, and all the clients who trusted Morton & Blake. Agent Torres, still on the line, asked, "He's threatening you, isn't he?" "Yes," I said quietly, "but he made a mistake." She waited. I opened a locked folder on my laptop, something I'd never told anyone about before. It was a file my father gave me before he passed away. I hadn't understood its full meaning until now. My father didn't build the scheme, I said. He documented it. He tried to stop it, but someone higher up forced him into it. He left these files behind to expose them someday. I started to see things clearly now. James had found the old files and thought my father was the villain. He thought I'd fall apart if the truth came out, but he didn't have the full story. Only I did. Agent Torres and I rushed to Morton and Blake's office building. It was late, and most of the staff had gone home, but I knew where we needed to go. My father's old office in the basement, now used for storage. We pushed open the heavy door. The room smelled like dust and old wood. In the corner stood my father's desk. I walked over, ran my hand underneath the top drawer, and found the hidden switch my father had once mentioned in his journals. Click. A small compartment popped open. Inside was a weathered USB drive. "Miss Bennett," a voice called behind us. We turned. It was Harold Wright, the company's current CEO. 2 security guards stood beside him. "I believe you have something that belongs to the company," he said coldly. I swallowed hard, then replied, "Actually, it belongs to the FBI now." I handed the drive to Agent Torres. Her grip tightened as she pocketed it. Wright's expression darkened. "You're making a mistake. Think about your career, your father's name, your future." I was shaking with anger now. "You mean the legacy you forced him to help you build? You blackmailed him into it, and when he tried to stop it, you threatened to ruin him. You can't prove any of that." "Oh, I think we can," I said. I pressed play on a recording from my phone, my father's voice, tired but strong, explaining everything. He had named names, he had saved proof. This was his final act before passing. Wright lunged forward, but the security guards beside him didn't move to help him. Instead, they grabbed his arms and cuffed him. They were FBI agents. I walked to the window and looked down at the lobby. James was being escorted in at that same moment. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw panic in his face. His allies were falling. His secrets were no longer powerful. "You did it," Torres said. "Your father would be proud." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I held them back. He gave me everything I needed. I just had to see the truth. My phone buzzed again. Another message from James. "We can still work this out. I'll tell them everything about your father." I smiled and typed, "Go ahead, that's exactly what I want them to hear."